We've all heard the argument, we've all heard both sides of the story. So, is eating late at night bad for you? Let's investigate. Alright, so before we even get started today, let's make one thing very, very clear. Let's get it out of the way. Eating late at night is not bad for you. Now, the problem with the term bad is it's a very umbrella term, right? It kind of just leans you towards that this is something that should never be done. And if you categorize it as that, when you actually do it, whether it's by accident or on purpose, a lot of people have the experience of feeling very guilty and shameful around doing it, which ends up making their weight loss efforts even worse, or their health efforts even worse. So in this video, we're really gonna dive into if eating late at night is bad for you, but if it is healthy, right? Or even if it is making it more difficult for you to lose weight, or if it's preventing your weight loss efforts. So, is eating late at night making it more difficult for you to lose weight and improve your health? So the science says maybe. Now, just like everything else that we discuss on this channel, this is a very holistic approach. So it's not just yes or no. There are a lot of different factors that go into it. So let's look at the science. So from a very logical standpoint, if we look at eating late at night and we think about how the body digests, we can just assume that the energy that the body takes to digest possibly could be going other places while we're asleep, right? If we have 100 points of energy for recovery, for digestion, for all the other processes of the body, if we're not digesting at night, logically that energy that would normally go to that could now be going to more beneficial things like repairing cells, like boosting recovery, boosting energy, all the things that our body is required to do while we're asleep at night. So of course, to back this up, we want to see if we have studies on this, right? Let's see if we can get some research here. So the first study that I found was in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism. Basically, in this study, researchers took 20 healthy volunteers to see how they metabolized meals eaten at 10 p.m. and 6 p.m. So all participants went to bed at 11 p.m. and researchers found that blood sugar levels were higher with the later dinner even when the same meal was eaten on a different day at an earlier time. And so on average, the peak blood sugar level was about 18% higher, and the amount of fat burn overnight decreased by 10% compared to the earlier dinner, right? So there's been a lot of research in the past about the connection between high blood sugar and cardiovascular issues, diabetes, obesity. So this study shows that potentially if you're eating later at night, your body may be more likely to spike that insulin and potentially burn less fat and slow down your metabolism throughout the night. Another study, so researchers at Northwestern University found that eating at night led to twice as much weight gain even when total calories consumed were the same. Now, this was a study on mice, so there can be some arguments there if that's actually going to be similar in human studies, but the truth is that this does make sense, right? If we're consuming this food, our body's going to have to go through different processes and expend its energy in different areas throughout the night, whereas if we were just going to not consume that food, then our body could spend its energy points going somewhere else. Wouldn't have to spike insulin. It wouldn't have to regulate that blood sugar. It wouldn't have to do all these things that is required when we consume food. Now, with that being said, there's also another side to the story. So I wanted to pull up some research that said otherwise and then kind of explore potentially why this could be happening and what this means. So there's a study done by Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore, and this suggested that meal timing doesn't necessarily make a difference for weight loss as long as you're eating the same amount of total calories. And so what researchers did is they looked at 41 overweight adults over the course of 12 weeks, and half the participants ate most of their calories before 1 p.m., while the remainder ate a majority of calories after 5 p.m. Now, with this, it's a little bit more difficult to interpret those results because eating at 5 p.m. or 5:30 or even 6 is going to be a lot different than eating at 11 p.m. or midnight or 5 minutes before you lay your head down on your pillow. So when it comes to that one, that study, because it's not specifically right before bed, there may be mixed results there. But there was also another study in the Journal of Nutrients that found that nighttime consumption of small single nutrients or mixed meals does not appear to be harmful and may actually be beneficial for muscle protein synthesis and cardiometabolic health. Now again, this could be interpreted a little bit differently because a small meal could be a little different from a very heavy meal, especially if it's right before bed. And so when we look at these results, again, we don't want to just look at the results. We don't want to look at, the difference in calories. We want to include every single aspect in here, from type of food eating to time before bed eaten to all these other things that contribute to these results. So what does this all mean, right? Let's make sure to look at this from a very holistic standpoint. So the truth is, from the research that I've seen and from my own personal experience, I feel a lot different in the morning after I've eaten very late at night as compared to when I'm fasting, or even when I eat meals 3-4 hours before bed. I notice that I have a less heavy sleep. I notice that I wake up a little more groggy, and I can just tell from that standpoint. Now, if we were to look at this from, let's even just say that the same amount of calories consumed at 5 p.m. versus 9 p.m. are going to contribute to the same amount of sleep quality and the same amount of metabolism and fat loss. The truth is, there's also a lot of research that backs the fact that people who eat later at night tend to overeat and consume more calories throughout the day than people who don't. So there's research that was presented at the 2020 European and International Obesity Congress that basically show that people who eat less after 6 p.m. tend to eat fewer calories throughout the day. And along with that, what my clients have found, what I've found, and I'm sure what a lot of other people have found, is that if they set that hard stop from when they're eating and they refuse to eat certain foods later at night, they're much less likely to actually have that hard stop and to follow through. Whereas if there's no sort of restriction there, and the idea is, it's not going to impact me if I eat a little bit later, there tends to be that possibility of overeating, especially when we take into consideration things like decision fatigue, where the more you go throughout your day, the more decisions you make, the more your brain is actually likely to make decisions that are worse off for you. So if we were to sum this up, big picture, eating later at night can potentially lead to poorer sleep, which can lead to a slowed metabolism and less fat burned. It can also lead to the potential of overeating late at night, or even just eating more calories throughout the day. Now, with that being said, does that mean that you should avoid eating late at night at all costs? The simple answer is no, right? There are bound to be times where you are pushed to eat those foods, and the truth is that there's going to be a massive difference if you just go out and you just eat the foods because you're going to, it's time, versus if you approach it from a very stressful angle and you're a little guilty when you do it, because again, those emotions can actually interfere with your metabolism and interfere with how that food is processed, and it can actually make it more detrimental for you. So my best advice, if you are working on weight loss, is number one, try to set a cutoff for when you're going to stop eating at night. It's just going to do you good. But number two, when those times come where you are potentially forced to eat late at night, or maybe you're just exposed to food late at night and you end up eating it, just do it. Just enjoy it, right? Because in the long term, that's probably going to be less hurtful than if you were to feel super guilty, super shameful, and super stressed about the situation. So I got to ask you, I'm curious, leave me a comment below. Do you usually struggle with cravings at night, or do you usually tend to eat late at night right before bed? But again, we're always looking at this from a very holistic angle. So if you are in the position where you have been working on losing weight and you're not at the goal that you want to be at, and you're struggling, and maybe you've done the yo-yo a couple times and you're really finding it difficult to stay consistent, make sure you go in the description of this video for a free 3-part course on how to use something that I call EMS Mastery to simplify the process of weight loss, to make it much easier to lose weight, and to allow you to build the habits and the internal discipline to stay consistent with that weight loss and to finally see results. But with that being said, of course, as always, I appreciate you. Make sure to subscribe for more awesome videos on how to simplify the process of health. And of course, as always, make sure to eat smart, sleep deep, move more, and be grateful for this moment. I'll see you in the next video.